Quality check. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between death rates over 60 versus under 60, or 60 and over and under 60. On a previous video, it was like a 2 or 3 minute video, I talked about how to take confirmed cases and convert that into a more realistic number of how many total people have had it, because obviously confirmed cases only counts the people who have been tested and to have COVID. There's a lot of people out there who have never been tested who have had COVID, so that's another video. This video again is separating the 60 and over versus under 60. We're using basic math. A times B equals C, and your variables are A is confirmed infected people, C is deceased, and B is death rate. We're using confirmed cases, so for every 100,000 of confirmed cases, how do we work out who's over 60 and under 60? And that's how the math works. First, we have to know what the death rate is, right? Well, currently, the only problem we have is that the current death rate that is being shown on some of these press briefings we're seeing, you know, the doctor with the scarf she likes to wear, different scarves, she's reported that they're counting all deaths of anyone who has COVID as a COVID death. Like, so when you see the death rate on TV or the deaths on TV, that includes everybody, even people who, for example, are undergoing cancer treatment or any other kind of a treatment where they're immune compromised, or if they have, you know, heart problems, lung problems, things that they would have been, you know, a higher chance of dying if they got the flu or a common cold. If they die and they happen to have COVID in their system, and they're undergoing chemotherapy, or any of these other people I talked about, they're still counted as a COVID death. So the number of people that they're counting is distorted to the high side because of that. I can't use inaccurate information like that. You have to apply critical thinking and put some kind of a reduction on that. So I'm using 3% instead of the 4% that you would get if you just calculated the current rate based on those numbers. But this again takes into account that they're counting people who aren't necessarily dying specifically of COVID. So anyway, with that said, 3% of 100,000 is 3,000 people. We know that 90% of the deaths are among people over 60, 60 and over. So if 90% are over 60 that are actually dying of COVID, that's 2,700 people out of the 3,000 total deaths, right, at 3%. Okay, so if 2,700 people are dying that are over 60, based on these numbers, that leaves 300 people that are under 60. Okay, the math's pretty simple so far. So for this 2,700 number, what do you divide it by? I'm dividing it by 6% death rate, because the death rate of everyone that's 60 and over, it varies obviously. Like if you're 80 and over, the death rate can approach 20%, but there's much fewer people in the population that are of 80 and older, because as you get older, there's fewer people as compared to 60 to 70. So that 20%, if you're 80 and over, gets distorted way down, gets modified by the lower number if you're 60 to 70. The average of all that works out to be somewhere between 5 and 7%. We don't know exactly, you know, what it is right now, but 6% is a pretty good average. So if you use 6% and divide these out, that shows 45,000 of these 100,000 are 60 and over. Well, what does that leave? That leaves 55,000 for the under 60, you know, group. So the math is simple. Once we know that, we can say 300 people that were under 60, 55,000 we've now determined were, you know, when you separate the over 60 to under 60, the death rate ends up being 0.55% for the people that are under 60, which should make sense, because if 90% of the deaths are coming from people in this age group, only 10% of the deaths are coming over here, then to come out to a 3% death rate, you have to have, if this is 6%, you have to have a very small number to be able to average out this small group of 10%, to average out with the 90%. That's why this is such a small number compared to that. That's just how the math works. So knowing that it's 0.55%, this is everybody under 60. That includes people that have diabetes, cancer, lung and heart problems, everybody. So how would you account for that? Well, the way we look at that is we say, next level down, we're going to assume, and this is a little bit of a, you know, guesswork, but 98%, instead of 90% or 60 or over, we're going to say 98% are probably includes everybody 60 and over and people under 60 who have, again, diabetes, heart problems, lung problems, cancer treatments, some kind of immune deficiency problem where they're being treated for something. And if it was, and it could be 96, could be 98%, it's going to be a lot more than 90 though. If it was 98% though, then that would cause this number to be 2,940 of your 3,000 deaths would be attributable to people 60 and over or under 60 with compromised conditions. That brings out, with the same 6% death rate, that puts us at 49,000 people. So you subtract this from 100,000, that's how you get 51,000. So we know that if this many people are attributable to over 60 and health compromised, That means 60 people would be under 60 and perfectly healthy. No health conditions whatsoever, just under 60 and healthy. So if you're under 60 and healthy, you divide it out, that ends up being 0.12% death rate. Again, this is just using the basic maths of the situation. It's applying all known factors. The 90% are dying that are over 60, and a 6% death rate, which is very easy to come up with a good estimate. And we're using a death rate that is approximately what it should be. And when you allocate all these numbers, this further reiterates the idea that if you're under 60 and healthy, no health condition, you should be out in the economy, opening your business, going to work, collecting a paycheck, going and spending your paycheck, doing things to keep our economy functioning so that we're not writing multi-trillion-dollar, debt deficits and paying people to stay at home. This is going to come back to haunt us. We are already on track within the next year or two, based on what we've just done, to have a net deficit in our country of a $30 trillion debt. I mean, if that ever gets to a more kind of a normalized numbers, if we were paying 3% interest on our debt, 3% on $30 trillion is $900 billion a year just in interest. So we have a big problem coming in the future, and we need to alleviate it as much as possible. How do you do that? Get back to work. We need governors who are going to not follow the leader of everybody else. Make a decision, be a leader, look at math, look at how it looks for who you could get back to work and when, and put the people back to work that can get back to work. Get this economy running. That's it for now. I hope you liked it. If you did, share it. If not, you can talk about it. But let's just get this conversation going. Thank you very much for watching.